Welcome back. At this point in time, we will be talking with a person of Shuaib Judith. He is the Chief Operating Officer of African Cultural Fashion and also founder of Formidable Female. But first, let me welcome you to the desk.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right. Happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you.
Are you looking all Valentine?
Thank you. If Valentine is pink, well, I agree.
Well, we won't know if it's pink. we will know for sure. We just pick a random color to be able to acclimatize ourselves with this celebration.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's even get into the conversation. Looking at the culture of Nigeria, the culture of Africa, culture tends to be a subject that has been relegated to the back door of inconsequential, even to our discourse in Africa. And somebody have said, in the next 5 years or couple of years, Nigerians and Africans will be losing their culture because there are no form of conservation or preservative means to ensure that we have cultural balance. But first, let me come to you. What are the challenges with our culture? Could it be that is the challenge that we have with culture that is making Nigerians and Africans by extension to shy away from their culture as not being practicable?
Well, first of all, the culture is definitely, thank you very much for the question. Nigerian culture is very much practicable. It is beautiful. African culture is unique everywhere in the world. However, what the challenge is, there are numerous challenges with why people shy away from culture. First of all is definitely civilization, what people call civilization, but it's essentially westernization. There's a lot of Western influence on Nigerian culture and African culture, and so therefore you find out that a lot of people, and this is made even this is influenced on a wider scale by virtue of social media, how accessible it is. So people, you find out that generations keep shifting, and then history and tradition and culture is not passed down as it should be. So you find out that generations are losing sight and touch of what culture, the essence of culture is, what the history is. And so therefore you find out that people just want to copy what they see. And then with the influence of the Western culture, you find out that people want to practice alternative culture than where they are from. So essentially, this is the foundation and the basic of what is influencing culture. But then you would also see situations whereby there's not enough policy. The government's policy is not stable in encouraging culture, in encouraging creatives, in encouraging, the essence of what tradition should be. So you find out that because of the inconsistency of these policies, it is somewhat being relegated more and more and more. So people see themselves as other people rather than who they are and where they are from. So there are many reasons we can go through as to what the challenges of culture is. And you can also dispute the fact that there are a lot of challenges with regards to ethnic, bigotry and things around that by virtue of either religious influence or, whatever the case may be. So along that axis as well, that's another challenge that you would find, because now that makes people distant from one another. It limits interaction, it limits intertribal interactions, intercultural interactions. So all those things combined together influence how people, accommodate culture or value culture.
Well, I asked that particular question as a build-up to the recent video that is trending, even the one on Unizik. I don't know if you saw the video recently. And prior to that time, we've seen a lot of diminishing culture in terms of respect, which the Africans have always held in high esteem. Right now, that culture is gradually diminishing. Could we attribute this to also westernization or to sheer ignorance of this up-and-coming younger version of Africans?
Well, it's a bit of both, really. It's a bit of both. It's rather unfortunate what we saw with, the incidents at Unizik. It is rather, a couple of years ago, down to at least 10, 15, 20 years ago, there is no way a girl child does that anywhere to an adult, not even to her age mate, you know. So it is really a bit of both. Is the fact that people are not very aware. You know, everybody wants to claim civil. Everybody wants to be new generation. Everybody wants to be what they term modern, and so doing that really makes even parents who now raise the generation we're seeing called the Gen Z lose sight of the basics of what should have grown people. So that is why you see that you have a generation of young people who have the audacity to think that they can talk to people or treat people in a certain way. But then some other times too, it is negligence. Some other times it is a loss of identity, it's identity crisis. You find out that a number of people, a good number of people, see themselves as, okay, maybe I'm so Western and I'm so civil at this point that you can't touch me. After all, don't you know countries where parents are not allowed to hit children, where this is that, or
But parents also support this in a large extent. We've seen parents that go to schools to even arrest the teachers for even trying to discipline their
Yes,
child.
absolutely. Even though we are also seeing a generation, to be fair and honest too, is borderline, you know. A bit of balance is necessary because you also see a generation where it's taking overboard. There's a lot of bullying going on. So sometimes that's why parents are that sensitive. But you would also find out that there are parents who are not just sensitive, it's really them losing sight and being very complacent with discipline. Really. So you also find a bit of both, and it is sadly what is producing the results that we're seeing. But the bedrock of it and the origin of it is really rooted in cultural crisis, ethnicity crisis. People don't know what is expected of them, or they are ignoring it because now they're paying more attention to what they see either in the media space or so, and they just want to be that.
Is the government in a certain level also contributing to this form of cultural chaos that we are seeing right now?
Oh, absolutely. In many ways.
Okay.
In many ways. You know, first of all, when you check school curriculums to begin with, because that is one area that plays a vital role in passing down culture. Of course, there's a place of family, there's a place of education, then there's the part that religion plays. So on the aspect of family as the foundation of where culture should have been groomed, we have discussed briefly now some of the challenges.
Yeah.
Complacency and, you know, the twisted narrative or acceptance of Western culture on that end. But yes, government plays a vital role. First of all, you see, like I highlighted before, there's inconsistent policies with regards to creating an environment for culture to thrive, for tradition to thrive. You find out that culture is one of the most neglected aspects of the nation, especially in Nigeria. If you want to do an event as a creative, if you want to do an event within the cultural industry, it is one of the most challenging things to do. And I can tell you authoritatively because I've done multiple events over the last 9 years now. And so therefore, I know very well what the challenges are. People just think, culture, it's not as important. Let's diversify. Let's put funds in other things and then relegate this. Losing sight of the fact that these are the things that keep culture alive. If you take a visit to museums, if you take a visit to cultural centers, if you take a visit to art centers, to traditional institutions, you would find out that it is literally in utter chaos. It's somewhat even abandoned in most places. When you talk about it from local government level, state level, to even the federal level, you find out that those are places that are somewhat dysfunctional. Almost non-existent. So you find out that these are the roles that government plays. And then down to education, what is the curriculum really teaching? You know, there's emphasis on a lot of information, especially outside information, Western information, foreign influence information, much more than indigenous information that would actually groom young people to be able to know that this is where they're from, this is what this is, and this is the essence of who they are. So all of those factors together combine to cause the identity crisis.
But one would think that it is born out of the evolution of the general systems of the world. So the government needs to acclimatize itself with some of those evolution and as such flow with the tide to arrive at those conclusions. Don't you think so?
One thing you would never see a lot of countries do is ever change either their appearance, their look, or their intonation just to fit into anything. Have you noticed?
Yeah.
You would see a Scottish person, even a ruler, who would wear a skirt and that long socks, and they don't care. you know. You would see, but then God bless people like the Okonjo-Iwealas of these days, you know. These are people who would carry and embody their culture. When you talk about it and you look at it in entertainment context, the Yemi Alades of these days, these are some people who try to not lose sight of what the culture is. Evolution does not mean that you change your identity. It just means that you can accommodate what is necessary, but without losing sight or completely downplaying or eradicating the essence of your existence of who you are. That, I think, is where the government gets it amiss.
All right, so let's come back to culture and morality as it stands right now. Somebody said that if there are no culture, automatically morality will die a natural death. But you are the professional in this field. I can't give that, say that authoritatively even on air. But you're not into it. How correct is this assertion?
Well, to an extent. So first of all, there are a lot of factors that come together and play a role in essentially facilitating, what values would be like and morality would be like. There are a lot of contributing factors. But then you can't downplay the part of culture. It takes a huge role. That is essentially what builds up your identity in the first place, as I've been emphasizing to begin with. So yes, there is values, there are things along the lines of character, there's interaction with other people. All these things play a role. But at the end of the day, the bedrock of how, or the vehicle that conveys how these interactions, how morality should really be born, is guided by culture. It is not the only determining factor, but it plays a key role.
Well, permit me to call you Dr. Judith. Even on this table, it's not official. But then, again, a lot of young persons out there will say that the reason why they've not been identifying with the African culture, even though wanting to dress in the African attire, is because the African culture, to a large extent, has been identified with a lot of diabolic practices in the sense of dark magic. In the light of all of this, that's what the African culture, as such, it is more convenient for them to delve into other cultures and other way of life. But do you share in this narrative?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. First of all, there isn't any culture that doesn't have diabolic practices, black magic and whatever. Even in Western cultures, foreign countries basically, okay? They each have dimensions of diabolism, black magic and everything else in between. So at the end of the day, is really what you decide to opt for. And that is the whole essence of, it's about the values, it's about the essence of it, it's about the guiding factor of it, it's about the beauty of it, it's about the spirit of it, not necessarily what people spin practices into. Now that's a belief thing, that's a conviction thing, that's a person-to-person thing. So you will not say, I will not wear shedda, or I will not wear adire, just because that doesn't automatically initiate you into any spiritual dimension at all.
We can't say that authoritatively on this table. We see people that put on adire and put on and they metamorphose into something else.
No, but
they're being possessed with spiritual.
It is not the fault of the adire. It is not the attire.
I will know. I will know. It's your field. I will know. Yeah. So yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so it is the spiritual practice of the person, and that is a person-to-person thing. Religion plays a role there, belief play a role there. Is entirely spiritual, is entirely conviction and belief system. It has nothing to do with attire, with culture, the essence of it, the heart of it, the code of it, the conduct of it. It has nothing to do with it. Those are two different things. But it is true that there are traditional people who are diabolic. But this is common in every culture. It's practiced in every culture around the world. So it's a person-to-person based thing.
All right. Judith, as a parting gift on Valentine's Day, even on this table, Nigerians have chosen to be on red and white and celebrate Valentine. Should we say that the culture of this dress code have come to stay even within Nigeria?
I can't authoritatively decide that for Nigerians to begin with.
Of course, I know when you were coming in, you saw a lot of white and red everywhere. It says it's the color of love. I don't know what the color of love actually is. I thought red signifies danger. I never knew it was for love.
No, well, the people try to associate it with the color of the heart. You know, the blood is red. You know, the heart is red. So
Okay.
people associate love with the
Okay,
heart.
symbolic.
Yes, I understand the sentiment around that. However, whatever makes red and white official, I think is a preference thing. It's, again, a culture somewhat has been, developed around that. But it's not necessarily a Nigerian thing. It's not necessarily an African thing. I think it's just a preference thing. It's just a trend thing. It's just something people adopt because it makes them feel happy.
Does it make you feel happy?
Well, first of all, I do not intend to wear red today, but I do like red. And at some point, red was my favorite
Are
color.
you wearing a shade of red?
This is pink.
Whatever that means. Well, I want to say thank you so much for being a part of the show today.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we'll go for this short break, and when we come back, still talking about love and Valentine. We'll come back and talk more even on this table. Please go nowhere. Us. The desk continues in a moment.